Hello, my name is Nick, and today I'm going to be talking about my issue currently with movie ratings. The main question that I've gotten from friends and others is asking, why do I even need ratings at all? Why can't I just say if I like something or if I don't like something? Like Netflix, thumbs up, thumbs down, that's really all you get. And my thing really is that, for me personally, I'm watching a lot of movies, of TV shows, reading a lot of books, and sometimes it can be very difficult for me to explain like what is worth your time in watching and going through. As someone who is sort of a completionist and will try my very best to watch everything, I feel if I can recommend something, it'll be easier than saying like, oh, start with this pile of movies or start with this pile of books. It can instead be, well, what's your favorite genre? Then I can give some direction. In the past, I've tried to use a 1 through 3 scale, 1 being I'm never going to watch it again, 2 being it was pretty good, and I could sometimes pick it up, and 3 being it's really awesome. And something that I just came to realize through this process of using a 1 through 3 scale is that it's just really, really challenging to say, like, oh, from a 2, what's a high 2 and what's a low 2? And sort of from all of that, I came up with my 5-star scale, which I didn't come up with it, but I just started using a 5-star scale. It's very similar, except now there's a little bit more nuance in the middle. I really didn't adjust my 1s or my 3s, which are now 1s and 5s. What I really did was just expand the middle areas. And I'm trying my very best right now to rate everything as close to 3 as I can. And what I'm trying to do is rate things on a natural distribution curve, which can be very challenging and very difficult. As I watch more and more things, I've kind of realized that my 3 is more so like a 2, and my 4s are more like 3s when you try to rebalance everything, which is sort of my issue right now, which is that like as new art and new things are coming about, the question for me is like, when do you decide, oh, actually, this thing that I thought was a 4 a really long time ago is actually a 3, or this thing that I watched like a really long time ago that I thought was a 3 is a 4, and there's a natural rebalancing that has to happen. And as the movies that I've watched increases, it becomes more and more challenging for me to go back and re-rate things or rewatch them and then decide, oh, actually, at the time I thought this was a 3. And now that I'm rewatching it again, it has aged much better than I could have anticipated, and now for me it's a 4. I run into these issues a lot, especially with action movies in particular, because I feel like when I was first starting in like 2016 of rating things way more strictly than I had in the past, that I was really, really harsh on action movies in particular. And this is sort of like what my general issue is right now, is that for me it's difficult without narrowing it down by genre, what is good or bad on the rating scale. And when I've been using Letterboxd, I've been trying to use one true rating for everything, but in reality I'm starting to see that the rating might actually differ by genre, which is very complex and perplexing to me that I can't use like one singular measure, if that makes sense. I think something that kind of also got me thinking about this more was that Dunkey had made a video where he was talking about how like a turn-based combat game is really good for him if he actually rates it above, I think he uses a 5-star scale, so above like a 4, because he doesn't like these games at all. So when he rates them very well, that means it's a really, really good version of whatever that is. And for me, that makes a lot of sense. It's just hard to put into words when you're explaining to somebody else why on Letterboxd all your 5-star movies are these like indie dramas, and there's nothing really in there for action movies. I really do like action movies the most. They're probably like my favorite genre, but they're not movies that require, I guess, too much thought, and intentionally they're very confusing to me. Because I think like for action movies, for me, one of the things that I really do love and appreciate about them is that you can turn your brain off and you can just go along for the ride. But also, if you want to think more about them, that there are moments in some of them where the bar is, I think, really high of like giving foreshadowing or having compelling characters. I think an obvious example of this is any Edgar Wright movie, like Hot Fuzz comes immediately to mind, of both foreshadowing, of character development, of all the other pieces that you would normally not expect from action movies. And personally for me, I love the Mission Impossible movies, especially 4 through 6, and I'm definitely very excited to see 7. This is coming out very soon. But one of the things that I think they do very well is interweave like a lot of plot lines at once, and I really appreciate that. But again, it's like hard to say, like, is this an action movie trope, or is this, you know, a greater piece of the whole action movie universe? I think another thing that's been coming up for me a lot lately is just how, like, when you are picking a movie and you're picking a genre and you're saying, like, oh, tonight, like, I'm really feeling an action movie. And it can be hard, especially on the ones like cross genres. Like, how do you rate it? Do you rate like a certain movie more like an action movie, or do you rate it more like a drama? I think like Moonrise Kingdom kind of comes to mind for me, because personally I would rate some of the like the different genres of it very differently. Like, I think my bar for romance is a lot lower, or like that like rom-com style, but like a drama or like an adventure movie I would rate a little bit harsher, just because I've seen a lot more of them. So like on my scale for like rating Moonrise Kingdom, for instance, like I would almost give it a 4.5, just on how it kind of balances that. But I really don't like half ratings, and my issue with half ratings are that for me, between if you were to turn your 4-star or 5-star scale into a 10-star scale, the very first thing you would do is to take all your half ratings and multiply the number by 2. So a 3.5 would become a 7, a 4 is an 8, etc. The issue for this, for me personally, is that when I am using half stars, the majority of the time that I'm deciding on a half star or a full star is just based on how I'm feeling that day. Like, there's no real like explanation I could give you between what I think is a 7 versus what I think is an 8. So I've really tried to condense it into 5 to make myself make a decision and say, like, actually this one was was better or was worse. And I think like the complexity can compound upon itself, because you're saying, well, actually, you know, my 6 was because I was having a very bad day, and actually this is probably closer to a 7. And I think that based on the issues that I'm having now with rebalancing my ratings after they've happened to now is just impossible. Like, I'd have to revisit a lot more films, I'd have to watch a lot more, and even now I'm sort of prioritizing watching new things over rewatching old things. There's definitely some exceptions to this rule. Like, I've been slowly getting through Christopher Nolan's filmography right now, as Oppenheimer's about to be out. So, but for me, like, I'm not really revisiting them as like to make a new rating. I'm more so revisiting them because I just am really excited for Oppenheimer, and I just want to, you know, get into that like Chris Nolan like atmosphere more. So Christopher Nolan movies, I think, are very challenging for me as well. Same with Denis Villeneuve. I think both of them have like these movies that are so artistic and like have like such good cinematography, and like it makes it very difficult for me to say like which one of these is better or worse. So that kind of gets me into my last part here, which is that I've kind of just accepted that the system will never be perfect, and that like I'm just gonna have to keep working and working on it. I'd love to get your opinions if you've been rating things and like how you kind of perceive the differences. For me, I think it becomes like super nuanced, but also like I see so many holes in my rating system all the time, where so I'll give something like Shrek, for instance, like a 4 one day, but then other days I think it's a 3, and other days I think it's a 5, because of how many times I've watched it and been entertained the whole time. Like, it's very challenging for me. Some other movies that I think have like really presented issues are like any rom-com, because for me personally, I'm like my bar of expectation is so low for them that anytime they even like barely succeed, like I will really overrate them. And then if the movie I think is like actually good and it is more of a rom-com-y style, like Legally Blonde I think is fantastic. I have a really hard time like going back and re-rate, like adjusting like 20 or 30 films that I've seen in the past, because I just find one that's immediately better. Like if I don't watch a lot of a genre, horror is another good sort of instance of this, is where like if I'm not very familiar with the genre, I'll way overrate, and then weeks later or months later I kind of have to come back and say, well, actually this one wasn't that good, it just scared me because I have no other expectations, or like I didn't know anything previously about this. So this was my very long, probably incoherent rant about my movie rating system. If you have any suggestions or explanations of how you rate, please let me know. I'm all ears. I'm trying to make my system better, and I feel like it like ebbs and flows of like times where I really want to work on it and times where I'm just like, you know what, it sucks, but it is what it is. It's just gonna kind of be that way. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.